Hello, my artist friends. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about composition. There's a lot to it, so I'm just going to do a painting and just give a little insight as to why I put things where I put them. To be honest, I've just done it for so long. I just kind of intuitionally use my intuition to place a lot of objects in a way that feels right to me. But today I hope to be able to give you a little bit more insight. I'm getting that question a lot. So there are some rules of composition. I'm just, like I said, going to show you the ones that have kind of made sense to me. And, hopefully that will give you some information to work with. So one of the kind of rules, I suppose, I don't really believe there's rules necessarily in art, is the rule of thirds. And I just automatically do this with all of my paintings. Odd numbers, they do say, is more attractive for the eye. So I typically always paint in threes. The painting I'm going to do today is going to have three flowers, probably something like this. And then what I'll do is add kind of some smaller flowers, maybe around the edges, maybe some berries, because those are always fun fillers. And you can kind of tuck them in wherever you want. Let me grab a darker pen for you so you can see what I'm doing here. So anyway, I'm going to be kind of placing probably three flowers here. These two might be bigger, or maybe the middle one will be bigger, kind of whatever I feel. And then I'll probably do a flower here. This one will probably be facing upwards. This one maybe head on, top down, like I showed you yesterday if you watched that tutorial. And, maybe this one kind of over in this direction. The reason I like to do that with my roses or my flowers is I think this is another part of composition is movement. So when you begin looking at this painting, you've kind of got these flowers. This one is probably going to be the center, so it'll look like the focal point. And then you also get drawn in. Let me just draw these berries here, or whatever I end up making those. So you kind of get drawn in down here. You come into here, and now you're going this way, depending on what I end up putting up here. Probably, some little leaves, little petals, something like that. So you want to draw, I always face my flowers in different directions. That way it's very interesting for the eye. The eye tends to go in to the opening of a flower. So coming in here, this flower's facing this way. And then it might come in here, this flower's facing this way, so it comes out. And now it comes down and through this flower. And then out again here. So you've got these wonderful little, guidelines, maybe a little bud here, something like that, some little branches, leaves. So I think you get the general idea. And another thing is I really like compositions. This is just what I'm drawn to. There's some common kind of line patterns. There's a Z pattern, where you put a focal point here and it kind of leads your eye through this C. There's S patterns that your eye kind of gets led through, and I think those are nice. For whatever reason, I tend to go with these arches. That seems to be kind of what I do, is putting 3 in the middle and then kind of building outwards. It's just, I don't know why. I'm sure you will find, what works for you as well. So just kind of drawing here. This will probably be along the line. So I have leaves going different ways. So anyway, that's kind of where I go with these. Now the second thing is I'm going to use values to create some composition, meaning some of my leaves and petals are going to be lighter, some are going to be the same hue but darker, so that kind of also leads your eye. So you could make the center of this dark, then it gets light, then your eye's going to automatically travel over here to probably something dark, maybe some berries. So your eye is flowing in this beautiful pattern. I can't not draw leaves. Not funny. So anyway, this has got a lot of movement. I also use white space. Let me see if I have a painting here I can grab and kind of give you an idea of that. So here's one. I leave a lot of white space here. That creates a lot of interest. It draws your eye in and around and creates a lot of interest. I've got some darker values here that also pull the eye in different directions. And for me, what's really important is having some white space in my paintings. I always talk about that because I feel like that creates so much interest. It really allows the viewer to fill in these white spaces and kind of create their own picture in their mind. So I'm always leaving white space. Here's another one I did, of course. These are all just plain, but I've got this flower coming up here. I've got this flower kind of going this direction, this one this direction. I've got complementary colors here, which I love. This is really my color palette that I always use. So for instance, if you were, it could work, but these colors are analogous. They're right next to each other, so they kind of blend nicely. Actually, those are the colors on my nails. Now, this is a contrasting color, so it adds a pop of interest, but it could, if I was to leave it down here on this bottom and didn't spread it around a little bit, your eye could get drawn right to here, a complementary color, which is opposite on the color wheel, and it could just stop right here because it's so different than these color tones. So I didn't want to just plop that down there and leave it because it kind of just sits there almost heavy and your eye goes to it and then can't move. So by also adding some of that turquoisey color in around, you land here and then, oh, here's some more. Oh, here's some more. So it's kind of drawing your eye around, creating movement, and white spaces and colors, they all create movement. You want your picture to lead and bring in a viewer and let them travel around your painting, okay? And you do that with the white spaces, with the design. I was reading the other day, I always knew, even numbers kind of didn't work for me, but I didn't know why. And I read that is really a thing, that if you just have two things, it's almost like your eye is visually competing for which one is the focus point. So adding that third one in, the odd number, the rule of thirds, kind of gives it some more direction. And actually, you could almost say this is an S. So I've got this here, up here, down. So I've kind of got this S flow going, or even a zigzag. So that's what you want. You want it to be interesting and to let your eye travel around. And you can do that with colors too. With that blue I just showed you, you've got kind of here, your eye goes to here, now it travels over to here. So you've got this flow, okay? Same with this one. Now, actually, I wouldn't just leave this flower here by itself in a painting. I would add in some little yellow berries, some yellow-green leaves, maybe a bud, something to help bring some unity and cohesiveness to the painting. It does help that I added in some of these little yellow dots. It kind of spreads that around. But really, if you were to see this, your eye would kind of go there and just stop. And that would be it. And we don't want that. So adding in some yellow over here, or at least some oranges, would keep your eye moving through the painting. So I hope that helped a little bit. 1 second here, I'm going to grab something so we can create a little color palette. Today I'm going to be using my Quin Magenta, which I use quite often, but I'm going to be mixing it with some orange or cad yellow to create like a blush color, and I'm going to mix that in front of you so you can see that. So I'm getting really low on my cad yellow, so I'm hoping I don't have to use this lemony yellow, but we could do that too. So let's take this out, and I'm going to be using my 140 pound cold press paper. This is just a little color swatch I'm going to create here, and it'll also be available in the kit that I create for this. But we're going to be using, let's see, let's get our Quin Magenta. So I'm going to put that in here. Such a pretty color, as you know, it's my favorite. And then let's add in, let's try some of this yellow. I don't usually use this lemony yellow, but let's see what that does. Kind of creates an orangey color. I'm going to add in some of I've got my 2 mixing containers, one to wash, one to rinse, and you want your wash one to be in a really large jar so you don't have to keep changing it. And then let's go into, I'm almost out of my cad yellow here. I'm going to have to purchase some more and mix that in. So that gives us this really pretty peachy pinky color. Okay, let me show you what that color looks like. Okay, it's kind of a peach color. And I wanted to share with you this too. I thought these were so pretty. I went out in my yard and picked these flowers, and look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Not sure. Oh, these colors together are just so pretty. I love them so much. And even my roses have those colors. Let me show you one here. I think it's so pretty. If I can get it out of my vase here. There we go. Look how pretty that is. The same colors. We've got this yellow and this orangey color. Oh, nature. She's perfect, isn't she? Okay. So let's get started here creating this. Got a little bug here. coming to try to get into my painting. Let's kind of create this color swatch. So I want to stick with that turquoisey color. I'm sorry, not turquoisey, Quin Magenta color. So we're going to have a lot of that in there. And then I'm going to mix it with that cad yellow just to create kind of this beautiful orangey color that I was just showing you in these flowers. Okay. So there we go. So those are the colors. And then let's see here. Let's go with a little different green to get together today. This is phthalo green, which I don't use too often. To me, it looks like kind of a Kelly green, and I always feel like it's not a color I see in nature too often. So I kind of avoid it and go with the sap greens, but look at that. It is very pretty. It just looks a little bit more unnatural to me, so I don't tend to put it in my paintings, but it is pretty, and we'll use some of that today. I'll also use my sap and olive greens because those are always my go-tos, and maybe we can use them on the sides here like that, and it will kind of create some highlights. And then let's see, any other colors here we're going to be using. I think I will use my cad yellow that we will add in, maybe do some of the roses, and it can also be blended in with the petals like that. But maybe we'll make some of the roses this color and some that color, okay? Okay, so those are my colors I'm probably going to use. I may even use, you've seen me use either a little bit of that burnt sienna, I think is really pretty on the leaves. So that can be kind of pretty too. Or maybe even the green gold. I think those are two really great colors to mix into stems and leaves just to get some of that contrast. So there's our color palette. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of a cold. I think it's allergies this weekend. So that's our color palette. Also notice when I laid these colors down, look at how beautiful they shine. This, again, if you haven't watched my wet into wet tutorial, it's really great to practice this on a whole sheet of paper. Getting to that place where you can lay down these colors where they just shine. There's no puddling, there's no pooling. Look at how beautiful the colors blend. Now I got a little bit of back blooming there because this was kind of drier. So when I put this in, it was wet and it kind of builds up a wall here. But this one, they were both kind of that glistening, and look at how beautiful they blended. If I had had puddling in there, the paint would have puddled instead of blended nicely like that. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. Let me move aside some of my brushes here. So because I always work in thirds, I don't typically really sketch out what I'm going to do, but certainly when you're just starting to play with composition, I would kind of do what I did for you a minute ago on that paper and, you know, kind of sketch out where you might have your leaves and your flowers so you can see that, yeah, that looks good. I like that. That can be real helpful. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with, I think I'll start with my center flower here, which will kind of be a focal point. So let's go into that beautiful orange that I created, which was combining Quin Magenta with cad yellow, and it made this kind of peachy orange color. So if you watched my rose tutorial the other day, I'm going to put a rose in the middle because I actually picked some roses out of my garden and I just thought they were so beautiful. I wanted to put them into a painting today. So I've got roses on my mind. So we're going to start with that, the tip of our brush, okay? We're very lightly pressing down on the tip of our brush, and we're going to make that little C in the middle. Now, I'd really like this to have more pigment in it, so I'm just going to add a little bit more. And then I always, if you saw me there, you know, get rid of some of that excess. You don't want you want your brush to be full, but not dripping full. So let's just go ahead and work around here. Maybe add in a little bit more yellow to that. There we go. I feel better with that. I'm dabbing off the extra. We're doing our C's. Go back and watch my tutorial on this. I think it could be really helpful. Okay. And now I'm going to go in with, rinse my brush and dab off the extra water. So I scrape and dab a little bit, and then I start working around this. Just touching these lines that I put here, okay? I never like hard lines, so I'm always softening my lines. Then I'm getting a little bit more, while this is all wet, color on there. And I'm kind of going through. Now, if I get some lines that I don't like, these hard lines, I will go back in and just soften them with some water. Like that. Don't like that. Okay. So I'm going to soften those. I like my roses very fluffy, very soft looking, just like that. Now to create some interest, because right now it looks a little flat, right? I'm also going to get rid of just a little bit of the white space in there. I feel like it had a little bit too much. So I'll get rid of a little bit of that. Now I'm going to go in there with some of that paint I mixed and just dabbing in again, okay, with these C strokes. Just like that. All right. Now maybe I'll go in with some of the yellow, the cad yellow. Let me get that. And we'll kind of touch in here and there with that color. Ooh, look at that. See how beautiful? You want to do this while this is wet because you want this to spread, okay? There we go. Now I'm going to go into the center with my original color. Okay, so it's got a lot of pigment on it. Let's add in even a little bit more pink or quin magenta. And we're going to go in the center because the center of the flower is always the darkest because it's the tightest. And then we might even, you know, spread it out here and there, making these C strokes, making sure you're leaving some of that white space, okay? That's really important because you don't want to cover that up, all right? So there you go. Okay, so I think that's good for now. Kind of not liking how dark that is. So I'm just gonna soften that a little bit. Okay. All right, so let's go to our second flower, which this one is facing straight up. So I wanna make my next one facing this way because it's kind of boring to me to just look straight down and see three flowers looking right at you. It's kind of like three focal points. So we're going to create another flower over here, and I'm going to use a little bit more pink this time. so that it looks a little bit different, but we're starting out watery because remember, you can't ever lighten really. You can pick up and kind of dab with the paper towel, you know, like this, and kind of get some lighter spots here and there. But for the most part, you can't lighten. So let's do our second one here. Let's see. We're going to draw the middle, okay? We're kind of looking at it from the side. So I've got my middle there. I'm going to wash my brush. And now I'm going to start pulling it around. Now see, I had way too much water there. So I'm going to dry my brush and pick up a little. I didn't like that. I don't ever want puddles, okay? We don't ever want puddles. So we're always kind of clearing off that water like this. Now I'm bringing this around because this rose is kind of pointing out this way. This also could be just any kind of flower, really. Okay. Something like that. I don't mind if this gets a little blended in there. Maybe bring that around a little. And now I might go in with a tiny bit of the orange here and there. And while that's wet, just let it kind of dab in there so they both kind of have some cohesiveness. Okay. So there's our second flower. Now my third one I'm going to have looking up because I've got this one head on. I've got this one over in this direction. So now maybe this one's kind of pointing up or a little to the side. So let's do that again. Let's go in, kind of match this color so that it draws your eye from this side to this side. If I did it I know they look really close, but this has more pink in it. If I do them too much similar, like this one and that one, it's gonna look kind of lopsided. So we want to bring this color, which is a little bit lighter value, and also give the eye that same value on the other side. It kind of balances it out. So I'm going to pick up that color, and let's start with those C curves in the middle. We'll come back and we can darken those. And then let's wet our brush a bit and start going around the edges, creating those leaf patterns. I'm sorry, petal patterns. Okay, so we're just creating C strokes. Now you can't see that a whole lot, but it's a lot of C strokes, and I like going into it with the water afterwards, and it just kind of spreads, okay? Might lighten those up, just like that. I think I'm going to bring a couple here, like so, okay? Now I can go back in the center here with that Quin Magenta, and actually we can do that here too. Okay, and just create that beautiful center. We can even go back in that one and create a little bit of that. Okay, and then go in here. Now that one was still a little bit wetter, so it got a little bit more of a spread there. I'm going to rinse a little bit of that color off and maybe create some of these C strokes around the edges. Roses are honestly just C strokes. And then I'm just softening the edge around them. Oops, sorry, knocked my camera. So I'm just doing this type of thing, okay? Okay, So now these look awfully bunched in. So what we want to do is carry the eye into other directions. So right now it can be kind of interesting. We're coming in here, going through there, back out here. I've balanced the little bit lighter pinker hue on this side with this side. This one in the middle's a little bit darker. So let's create maybe a little tiny flower coming out here. Okay, so we're just going to, now that has a lot of paint on it. So I'm going to dry my brush and pick a little bit up. See how my brush just soaked that right up? So we're going to just bring a little bud here. Okay. So it kind of brings the eye down. Now I'm going to go around all those edges and just soften them a little bit. Just a little. Okay. Just like that. And then we're going to add in some leaves around here. I think I want to add in some berries with that gold color, so we'll do that in a minute. But let's maybe make one more bud. Oh, look at that. I have a little tiny, I don't know what that is. I think it's an aphid crawling on my page. Huh. Okay. So let's do one more little, because I like working in odd numbers. And let me ask you if you notice. Now, I've got an even number here. Because I have this little tiny bud, it's not so bad because it kind of looks like 3 and then 1. But I don't know why. I really like odd numbers. So let's create that other little bud coming out here. Okay. Going to add in some of that orange. All right, there you go. And now we will start adding in some green. So I'm going to have maybe a stem come out here because again, I like this diagonal thing. So I'm going to have that stem also come out here, something like that. Maybe here with some berries. So let's start filling in the middle here with some green leaves. I'm using the point of my brush here to create these leaves. If you remember, leaves are C curves. So let's just add this in here, and I like that. I love when it kind of blends like that. I think that's so pretty. So let's do our stem coming out here, our leaf coming out here, and we'll make this some leaves. So we're going to do something like this. Point, press, and come around like that. And then let's do the other side. Point, press, and come around, okay? Point, press, point, press. And there I lightened the values, so this leaf looks a little bit darker. We're going to talk about that too. So point, press, something like that. Might just tuck in a leaf kind of right here. Point, press, something like that. And then I think right here I'm going to have this leaf coming out. I think I want to make it a little bit more greeny yellow though. So let me get my paint here. And I'm going to create a little bit more of a green yellow because I think that could be really pretty. Again, going back to my color swatches and mixing in kind of that green yellow. So let's add in this here. And I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. And then adding in some of these leaves. Okay. Something like that. Okay, so now I've got this movement happening, lots of areas coming in. Now I feel like we need something over here because that just looks kind of blank, and we're going to add something up here as well. So let's bring this through here and then start adding some leaves. Point press, okay, like that. Point press, okay. And rose leaves tend to be a little bit flat. Matter of fact, let's make some of these a little darker. Well, let me do the light value first. So point press. Look how pretty that is to vary that value. You might even do some of those in here. Point press. So pretty to kind of create some different values in there. Now, I'm debating coming out here. Let's see, let's go for it. Point, and then start creating some of these leaves. Point press, okay. Point press, kind of something like that. I'm using lighter values, which means more water, and darker values, meaning more paint. And then I almost feel like I want to incorporate some of that brown. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now that we had on our swatch. And maybe just go into some of these with that, okay? So I think that could be kind of pretty. Look at that. It's really interesting, isn't it? Something like that. And that is the brown sienna. Then I'm going to go in and add maybe some berries. But look at how pretty it is when it blends with that green. Okay. Something like that. Just kind of filling these spaces with some fun, interesting things. Now let's go in. I feel like I kind of left that hanging there. So let's go in and just create a leaf there. Point press. So we've got that. And then I'm going to go in with a little lighter value. Point press. Okay. Point press. Kind of creating some leaves tucked in here. And maybe even play, no, I'm going to make those berries. I'm going to leave that and make those berries. But I might do something like that. Maybe tuck in some little leaves here. And those I'm just literally using my brush and kind of dabbing in there. Okay, something like that. Just kind of filling in some of those spaces. I think I feel like I want a really dark leaf right there, darken value. So I'm going to use a lot of paint and maybe some of that green gold that I put on our little swatch there. Okay, and let's create a couple darker leaves. So right here, point press, like that. Ooh, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Point press. Something like that. Oh, yeah, that's pretty. I like that. Point press. Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. And then maybe over here, let's see, where could we tuck in a dark leaf? Point press. Something like that. So these really are drawing your eye in and through the painting. We've got some different directions. We've got different values. I might add in some different values here. Almost feel like I want some of those up there. Something like that. And then let's add in some berries. So the berries, because I'm going to put them in 3 different places, I think we could do those. Now, this is mostly an analogous color palette. So I've got they're right next to each other on the color wheel. Let me show you. 1 second here, if I can find my color wheel. Oh goodness, here it is. Okay. So analogous colors, they're right next to each other on the color wheel. So we're kind of working with these. So it's very soothing, it's very soft, it's very blushy. So they're very soothing to look at. Now for these little berries, I think what I'll do is use a complementary, which should be this blue-green. It could be this blue, which is usually what I go for. We've got some of the greens in there, but we warmed them up a little bit so they kind of blend with this warmer color palette. But I think I'm going to do the berries one of these colors because I like those pops, and I love Winsor Newton's turquoise, which I did not put on here because I couldn't decide if I wanted to do yellow or blue. And you know what? We've got yellow here. So let's stick with that. See how I am. I change my mind as I'm going through paintings. I do this all the time. I'm really loving this. Will show you an example what yellow is going to look like in here. So these little berries, won't that be pretty? So let's do that. And I'm going to add them onto the little twigs that I put in there. So let's grab our yellow. This is Cad yellow. And get it on our palette here. So look at that. That's going to be really pretty. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more water there. There we go. Okay. So let's just start adding, and I'm just going to do little circles like this. Okay. Look how beautiful that is. Let's grab some more. Put them maybe at the ends of these little twigs I did. Oh, that is so pretty, you guys. Maybe right here. Just little circles with the tip of my brush. Okay. Maybe dot in some up here. Like that. So they're going all the way around. Maybe put some here. Okay, something like that. Now I feel like, no, I think I'm going to leave that. I feel like I need something right here, and I'm not quite sure what. I feel like this flower is just kind of hanging out there. But you know what? I think I'm going to leave it because I've got a lot of different directions going here. So I think I'm done. I hope this helped you with the composition. So I've got my white spaces in here. I've got white spaces up here, right here, right here. So it's drawing your eye in. I've got my different values. So it's interesting. We've got light values, dark values, kind of drawing the eye around. We've got our threes, so 1, 2, 3, and then we've got kind of these 2 little ones here. We could have even put another one right here, but I didn't want to have it really dangling out. So I think that's good. I think that's good. I think I like that. So I hope this helped you. If anything, I might go back in, see what I do here. And I might just add in some more, a darker value in the center here. something like that. I don't know. I could even go in and, you know, create something like that, and now go in and soften those. Like so. Something like that. Okay, to create a little bit more interest. There we go. I think that's pretty. Might need to add a little bit more of that. Something like that. Okay, so sometimes you got to kind of know when to stop, because I could very easily ruin this now, which I've done many a time, let me tell you. Okay. Now, because I did that there, I really should do that on this side. Otherwise, it's going to look a little lopsided. So let's go in and add a little bit over there. See, I thought I was all done. There we go. I just felt like these were a little flat. They were all kind of the same color, so I wanted to add in a little bit of pop. So there you go. I think that's kind of better. And I might even, let's see, I think to create that S, here it goes. I think I might even add in that. Something like that. I think that's interesting. Okay. So you could really, I've done whole sheets of this. Now, I would go in with some lighter values, so more water on my brush, and create some interesting little pieces tucked in here. Maybe coming out of there, something like that. Now, really, I could just keep going and going and going, but I think we're good. I think that looks really good. I'm happy with that. So we've definitely got this S. As I said, I like kind of swag styles. I think that's really pretty. So anyway, there you go. I will list all of my, my brush. I'm using my Winsor Newton 8 Princeton. I will link in there. I put together this little kit so you could actually have this. I sell them for $25. You get the swatch here. This could actually even be framed. I put all my notes. I will title this with today's, let's see, let me find a pin here. I usually sign these online, and I will just put composition, excuse the camera shake, tutorial, Debbie Walker, and the date. There you go. And then, oops, you didn't even see that, did you? And then you will get the swatch, and I'll list out all the colors. I typically give you a brush strokes sheet so you can see some of the brush strokes I used here for the leaves. And I encourage you to come back to the video after you purchase your little kit. I only do one per painting, by the way. And have it laid out in front of you. Kind of look at my brush strokes, where I'm putting that white space, and look at the colors. And then come back to the video after you practice the brush strokes that I will give you on another sheet. Then try this out. Okay, this was a little bit more complicated, but I think you guys can do this. You can always go back and watch the rose tutorial. I got so many messages from you guys saying how easy that made it. And, just come back and do that. The little leaves can be a dab, or they can be 2 C strokes put together. And let me know if you have any questions. I wanted to share with you real quick. Look at these out of my garden. So beautiful. my one and only Cosmo. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, I love it. And then my roses, I've got a little African daisy here in my garden. How beautiful. These just make me so happy, you guys. It just makes me want to paint them all. Okay, happy painting, everybody. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much.